The Penguin series on HBO is less than a week from premiering, and Matt Reeves is now doing press and talks about where the idea of the show came from, as well as how it's going to tie directly into the Batman 2. Speaking of the Batman 2, Matt Reeves also provides an update on when this particular story will take place, and I'm going to share with you all what particular villain I would like to see be involved in that story. Now, the Green Lantern series on HBO has definitely been picking up steam lately, and some of the casting rumors went wild last week, and today we have an update on if Josh Brolin will decide to be the DCU Hal Jordan. But before we get into all the stories today, I want to take the time to thank you all for clicking on today's video. If you enjoy these type of videos, make sure you hit the thumbs up, but more importantly, share your thoughts on all the topics in the comments below, and consider sticking around by subscribing to the channel. With that being said, let's get into the stories. So let's take a look at the Penguin series, which actually the embargo lifted the other day. And as I'm recording this, there are 46 reviews at a 93%. And the critics' consensus for the show is that it's depicting Gotham through the bone-breaking punches rather than popping onomatopoeia. All right. The Penguin is a grounded crime saga given gravitas by Colin Farrell and a scene-stealing Kristen Milioti. So that sounds pretty awesome to me. I mentioned in my last video that I have been given the entire season of The Penguin. I haven't watched it at the time of this recording. I do plan on watching the first episode, having a review for you all when it premieres on Thursday, and then every single, I believe, Sunday it'll be premiering, and I'll have reviews for the show because I am super excited about it, and I can't wait to check it out and give you all my thoughts. And let me know in the comments, what do you all first and foremost think about the percentage? 93%. Some of the reviews I've read talk about how it's grounded, how it touches on the mafia angle of Gotham, how we got great performances. There were some criticisms, like I heard some of it's kind of slow, there's a lot of dialogue, and some people just didn't like. I know IGN gave it like a 5 out of 10. So I would say it's mostly been positive, but I'm really excited to explore the series myself. But like I said in the comments, let me know what you all think about the review so far. Are you excited for the Penguin? Will you be watching the premiere night? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. But with the Penguin being on top of the mind, let's talk about Matt Reeves, what he had to say about, again, the conception of where the show came from, and also where is it going to take place in the timeline leading into the Batman Part 2. So we're going to take a look at these interviews that was conducted by Collider, and we have Steve Axon, the director of the Batman Part 1 and 2, Matt Reeves, and also the executive producer of the Penguin, telling the audience, us, where did the idea of the Penguin come from, but also was there ever any changes in the process of like what we were going to do with the Penguin after Part 1 of the Batman leading to Part 2, and where did the show, was it a new idea? Was it always there? So we're going to listen to what Matt Reeves have to say about, again, where the idea of the show stemmed from.
That was something where I had always intended to continue Penguin's story and wanted to tell this kind of story of his beginning of rise to power, because we know that he's introduced in the Batman, a kind of mid-level, sort of overlooked, mocked figure who's not anywhere yet to becoming not yet in anyone's eyes the Kingpin that we come to know him as in the lore. I was deliberate because I wanted, whereas it wasn't Batman's origin story, I wanted the origin stories of these other characters of the Rogues Gallery, and that story was initially what was going to be the entree into the next movie. And then when we were talking about this kind of what I call the Batman epic crime saga, and we're talking to Casey.
Let me know in the comments, what do you all think about the epic Batman crime saga as like the title of this particular set of stories, right? The Infinity Saga, the Multiversal Saga, Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters of DCU. Like, do you guys like that? The Batman crime saga. Let me know your thoughts on that. I think it's kind of cheesy, but I'll probably grow to love it eventually. But let's continue on.
We were talking about these different aspects of the show and what we wanted to do, and one of the things that Casey said was, he goes, God, I'm really excited about what you're doing in the movies too. Like, we'd love you to do something in the series that's like with one of these marquee characters. Like, don't save everything just for, the theatrical experience. And I said, well, let me tell you what I wanted to do as the next sort of leg of the story as an entree into the next movie. I wanted to do basically in the wake of what's happened at the end of the first movie, Carmine.
To answer the question as far as was the Batman, or to say the Penguin, was it always conceived as a series? So Matt Reeves just kind of answered that question, that no, initially the idea was to take the character, introduce him somewhat of an origin stories in the first Batman film, and then in the sequel give him more meat on the bone, give him a little bit more of the depth of the character, seeing him becoming the Kingpin of Gotham. So that's interesting that it wasn't always conceived to be, let's have a movie, let's have a character we introduce, and then have a TV show to flesh him out more, and then give him more in the second film. So that is very interesting. Let me know how you all think about the conception of the Penguin. Does it make you nervous that it was initially conceived to be a continuation thematically on the big screen versus it being an extension on a small screen television experience? Like, are they stretching the character out too much? Are they going to have to fill the holes in? Is it going to be almost like drawn out? Let me know how you all feel about, again, the idea of where the Penguin came up, that it wasn't initially set up to be a TV show. Let's continue to see what he has to say.
Imagining almost for that story, an aspect of it kind of almost like a Scarface story, like a gangster story. And Casey was like, that's the series we want. We want that series. And I was like, oh, okay. And so then everything had to be slightly recalibrated so that we're still on the same path we were on. But the idea was to pull that out and to basically find a way to tell that story and have it begin a week after the movie, and then tell the beginning of him beginning this journey toward becoming the Kingpin, and then ending that story as it related to where we wanted to tell what was going to be the main story for the Batman 2, which Mattson and I are now writing. And so
very fascinating stuff. That, again, the idea was introduce a character, flesh him out more in the second one, but then we're going to actually give the character a show to flesh him out more. So I like it because it shows that they are willing to open up the opportunities to shift and to maneuver and to elaborate certain things. But like I said, it does make me kind of, I don't want to say concerned, but I'm just very curious on, like, okay, we were going to give him this much in a film, but we're going to now give him 8 hours in a TV show. So I'm just very interested to see how they're going to be able to fill that up in an 8-episode, 8-hour experience. Is it going to be, like I said, too much backstory of the Penguin? Is it going to be, like, again, filling in the holes, and like we're going to have episodes that have nothing to do with the Penguin? So very, very interesting stuff that he's saying here. But all right, so the next question was, how far along are the stories going to pick up from one to the other? So when we end the Penguin series, how far along in time, if any, will we be continuing the story from the Batman 2? Is it a week? Is it a year? So that's what Matt Reeves is going to talk about. Let's see what he has to say.
The election day was November 7th, and this takes place a week after that, after Villarreal has been elected, but is now Mayor-elect Villarreal. The story plays out, really toward over the next weeks that take you toward the end of the year. I don't think we quite get to, we don't play Christmas or New Year's, but we're getting there.
So let's talk about that last point before I get into my thoughts on the timing of it all. So the series, as he says, the Penguin is taking place a week after the Batman. So that's late October or so into November. And then we're going to be following the Penguin series over a course of, in our real time, it's 8 weeks, but in the show is going to be maybe a couple weeks. So it seems like the show is going to be very fast paced. We're going to be waking up with the Penguin, going to sleep with the Penguin. It's going to be on within, like I said, that week span, which is very, very interesting to kind of explore that time. And also the second half of that question and that answer is the timing of when the series ends. We're going to pick things up for the Batman Part 2. So it sounds like we're not going to have a time jump. I was under the assumption we're going to get the Penguin series. He's going to be the crime boss. And then we're going to maybe see a year later, aftermath of that, and then seeing obviously year 3 of the Batman. But no, we're picking the story up a month probably from the Batman. 2022 is the Batman, and then 2026 is going to be the Batman Part 2. So I was just under the assumption we were going to go with the character in real time, a 4-year gap. But no, we're picking things up. So before I give you all my thoughts on the setting of it all, let me know what you all think about the lack of time and space and time skipping, that we're going to just pick right things up from the Batman from a time perspective. No off-screen development, no major events taken off screen. What do you all think about that? Just to share my kind of comments on this, I really hope that we get to explore more Bruce Wayne and him getting that playboy persona. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see if they play into that in Part 2, if we're going to see that development within the film and how that's going to show him becoming that side of Bruce Wayne. Because one of my criticisms with the Batman was there really wasn't a distinction between Bruce Wayne and Batman. So it's going to be interesting to see him kind of develop that persona, like I said, in Batman Part 2. But with that being said, let me get into my thoughts about the timing of it all. He said that the show won't be, December, Christmas, and New Year's, but that doesn't mean that the movie won't play into that. And if it's a Christmas, snowy type of environment, this is who I would hope to maybe see be involved as far as a villain in the Batman Part 2. So I think a lot of you all might know where I'm going with this, but if it's going to be a Christmas time of the year with the snow on the ground and it's freezing out, I think the perfect villain to be introduced and also be one of the main villains of the Batman Part 2 is Mr. Freeze. Now, the first time I was introduced to the character was on the big screen portrayal by Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Batman and Robin in 1997, which wasn't the best portrayal of the character, but I still have fun with the character.
The Iceman cometh.
Taking it back to February 1959, where the character was first introduced in the Batman comic book series 121, as he went under the name Mr. Zero, a mad scientist. But then fast forward to 1966, where the character was renamed Mr. Freeze in the Batman television series. But when I think of Mr. Freeze, I always think about the reintroduction or the reinvention of the character that was held in 1992 with the Batman animated series. Now, in that amazing episode that actually won an Emmy that year because it was so well written, it's just a fantastic episode of television, we meet Dr. Victor Freeze, who was a scientist in Gotham City who suffered a lab accident while trying to cure his ailing wife, Nora. Now, Dr. Victor Freeze turns to crime to fund his research in his obsessive quest to cure his wife by any means necessary, which brings him into conflict with the Batman. For me, I would love to see a more grounded version of the character and having Matt Reeves lean into the love story between Victor and his wife, Nora, and maybe having Bruce Wayne knowing one of the characters to create this sense of sympathy that Bruce Wayne and Batman can have for Victor and Nora, and kind of understanding where he's coming from and understanding why Victor went into crime. I would so love to see Matt Reeves get his hand on such a character that I love from the comics, love from the animated series. Like I said, when I saw that as a kid, I love that episode. I watch it every now and then because this is such a well-written episode. And like I said, that episode kind of reinvented the character for the comic book runs and for what we see later on from the character, except for obviously Arnold Schwarzenegger's portrayal.
Louder, come on, sing.
I am hoping that maybe, because I still think, as I mentioned in my last video, we're going to probably get the illusions of the Quarter Isles being involved since the beginning. We're probably going to get like more of a physical presence villain for Bruce Wayne to go against, whether that be a Hush or a Clayface. But I would love for Victor Freeze to be involved again with the wintry season. I'm just thinking of the marketing now. Everything was red and gloomy and dark with the first Batman film, but now we get into the blues and the blue hues. It would just look so great. But with that being said, let me know your thoughts on the timing of it all. Would you like to see Victor Freeze being the villain? But let's switch gears and let me share with you all some fan casting, who I would like to see in the role, and I would love to see who you would like to see in the role in the comments below. But let me share some fan casting who I would like to see play potentially Mr. Freeze in the Batman Part 2. Starting off with someone that I've been a big fan of for a long time, and as Viggo Morrison, I think he would play a fantastic Victor Freeze because I think he can dive into his acting bag, giving you the sensibilities of someone that's wanting to cure his wife, but also have a menacing side to him. So I think he will be great in the role. Now, sticking with someone at that older age and having someone that's a fantastic actor as well and has an Academy Award on their shelf, and that is Christopher Waltz, who is fantastic in everything I've seen him in. You talk about sympathy, but also talk about the menacing side of him. Have you seen Inglourious Bastards? I think he would be a fantastic Victor Freeze. And last but not least, if we're going kind of a similar age as Bruce Wayne, or at least someone that's not too much older than him, maybe Michael Fassbender. I think he, obviously we see him in Magneto, he can lean into those menacing sides of him, but I think that Michael Fassbender would play a very interesting side of the character that I would love to see on screen. And of course, I can't leave out some of the other fan casting I've seen online is Giancarlo Esposito, who I think would be great in a role, as well as Mark Strong. So let me know what you all think of my fan casting. What do you think about some of the rumors online of what people would like to see? But more importantly, who do you think can play Victor Freeze? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And last but not least, let's talk about the casting rumors of Josh Brolin potentially being the Hal Jordan of the DCU. Now, this comes from the Hollywood Reporter, as the headline reads, Josh Brolin passes on HBO's Green Lantern TV show. They got the exclusive. Let's talk about it. So as the article reads, Josh Brolin will not be wearing the ring after all. The actor has passed on an offer to star in Lanterns, the DC Studios series based on the Green Lantern superhero character. Brolin was eyed to play Hal Jordan, the cocky Green Lantern hero previously played by Ryan Reynolds in the ill-fated 2011 Green Lantern movie. According to sources, the actor received an offer at the end of August, which is interesting because we just got the story about a week and a half ago, which I guess lines up. But it says by the end of this past weekend, his mind was made up. No other details were available. So look, my thoughts on Josh Brolin passing the role. Like I said in my previous video, I didn't really see him in the role, but I can understand where we're going from because as they're mentioning a gritty, darker, older veteran, Hal Jordan, it makes sense. Like as the photo as I have behind me shows him, him on the press line for Dune. Like I thought he's playing Gurney, who's a mentor to Paul Atreides, so he can definitely do the role. But I think that there's definitely other actors I think will do a little bit, give a little bit more of a different portrayal of the character. And like I said, I think John Hamm will be perfect in the role. And there's other great actors out there that I'm pretty sure can fulfill the role as well. But let me know in the comments if you're disappointed by the news that Josh Brolin will not be playing the Hal Jordan in the DCU, or if you are excited to see maybe other actors, whether it be Matthew McConaughey, Timothy Olyphant. We also had, like I said, Ewan McGregor. I have John Hamm. I'm just going to keep saying that to manifest that happening. But let me know what you all think of the news. And again, leave your fan cast and who you would like to see play Hal Jordan in the DCU. All right, so that's going to be the end of this week's breakdown of all the latest news from the DCU. Let me know your thoughts on the Penguin reviews, where the story of the Penguin came from, the timing of it all. Of course, we talked about the Batman 2 that taking place in the winter. Would you like to see Mr. Freeze being the villain? And if so, who would you like to see in the role? And of course, let me know your thoughts on Josh Brolin passing on the role of Hal Jordan, who you would like to see be the DCU's Hal Jordan. Let's talk about it in the comments below. Thank you all for making it to the end of the video. I really appreciate you. Hopefully, we have some more news to talk about in the coming weeks as far as DCU is concerned. But I do know come next week, we will be talking about the Penguin. So again, subscribe to the channel. I will be breaking it down every single week, having breakdowns after each episode, and I cannot wait to watch it. I'm literally in the middle of watching the Batman right now, just getting in the mood, refreshing myself, and then I'm going to watch the Penguin, and like I said, have a review ready for you all. So put a thumbs up in the comments if you're excited for the DCU, if you're excited for the Penguin, the Batman 2. Share this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and of course, consider subscribing to the channel. You all are awesome. Stay safe, and I'll catch you all on the next video.